The Judicial Service Commission is conducting interviews to fill vacant positions. On the 17th of May, the JSC published adverts calling for nominations to fill 24 vacancies at various superior courts across the country. These include the Supreme Court of Appeal, the Electoral Court and several other judicial leadership positions. Our reporter Govan Whittles is tracking then this process. Govan, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Look, it's become such a contested process, right? So any of the candidates that now go before the JSC for interviews for whatever position know they're likely in for a hard time.
They know that indeed, and in June the JSC had said it was struggling to shortlist candidates for the position for the vacant seat at the Constitutional Court. Some analysts speculated that this might be because of the harsh interview process, and there was some expectation raised as to whether or not the process would be reformed, whether the questioning by the commissioners in this interview process would be more streamlined, and today has really been the test of whether or not that's going to happen. So the day started with Judge Gwele, who was questioned on gender parity and patriarchy, and some of the notable comments from her included that patriarchy, she believes, persists within the judiciary, and asked whether or not she believes gender parity should be made one of the criteria by which the Supreme Court of Appeal's vacant positions are filled. She said she does believe it should be made a criteria, but wouldn't necessarily speculate on how it should be added into the actual criteria, which has not been released just yet. And then, of course, Judge Goosen was also questioned, and his questions were mostly focused on whether or not he should be appointed as a white male to the Supreme Court of Appeal, given that there are already 3 white males in that position. He was also questioned on his position on transformation. And currently, Judge Piet Koen, he's presiding over that arms deal case in KwaZulu-Natal, is being questioned by the commissioners. Interestingly, Judge Piet Koen has responded to the criticism leveled against him by former Chief Justice Mogoeng. Remember, the former Chief Justice had accused Judge Koen of being discourteous in a meeting regarding cost-cutting measures in which the former Chief Justice was present. The former Chief Justice describing it as one of his worst moments as a judge, and said that Judge Koen was rude. Today, Judge Koen responding to this, saying he felt gutted by the comments and he believed they were unsubstantiated. But let's talk to Mr. Benedict Piri, who has been watching these interviews and has been here since the earliest JSC interviews. Let's begin with the process. There was some expectation that it would change, that we would see a difference. What's your take on what you've seen this far?
I think we've seen a positive difference insofar as the line of questioning is concerned. The themes generally track each of the candidates. So, the themes trace transformation, the robustness of judgments in respect of the candidates, what they would contribute to the administration of justice, as well as collegiality within, the court system as a whole. And I think most candidates have faced similar questions along that line. Obviously, the white males have faced harder questions relating to transformation, because the question is it a numbers game, or is there more that the Constitution can give effect to in giving effect to demographics, but also leadership as a whole as well, as a judicial officer. So I think the interviewing and the questions has been a lot fairer than what we've come to expect in recent times, and certainly a lot more useful and focused.
One of the surprising moments has been Deputy Chief Justice Meyer allowing Judge Piet Koen to respond to that criticism leveled against him by the former Chief Justice. Judge Koen saying he was gutted, he believed it was unsubstantiated, and that he was advised to sue but believed it wouldn't be in the best interests of the judiciary. What did you make of his comments?
I think, firstly, it was fair of Judge Meyer to give Judge Koen an ability to address what had been a public interaction in which he was not well prepared for at that point in time, to give him the opportunity to address it publicly. But certainly saddening, because he says he doesn't sleep, when he recalls and he thinks of those comments that were made to him. And I loved how he dealt with it in giving each of the commissioners a transcript and an audio recording to allow them to actually make their mind up to see whether he was actually discourteous or, whether that was actually fair. A fair assessment. Obviously doesn't believe so, but certainly it's great that the commissioners are now in a position to make an objective assessment for themselves of what actually happened in that meeting.
And then the Deputy Chief Justice also saying, for what it's worth, she doesn't agree with the comments of the former Chief Justice. Do you think that does anything to repair what Judge Kun believes was damaged in his reputation?
I think it definitely goes a long way, and I think she actually went one step further. She said, not only do I not subscribe to those comments, but certainly your colleagues that you've worked with would describe you in a very different manner to the manner described. And I think, that accords with the public feedback we've received about Judge Kun and how practitioners in his courts and his fellow colleagues perceive him, which I think, given what we know, accords more fairly with what transpired the last time he had the interview.
Lastly then, Mr. Phiri, last time when the JSC interviews concluded, there were questions about the credibility of the interviews, considering what they called a nature of the interviews which was not necessarily smooth, and the way that they were conducted, a lot of criticism for the type of questions that were leveled. This time around, do you believe that the way that the commissioners are conducting themselves lends more credibility to the entire process, and it would be accepted by the general public?
Yes, absolutely. And particularly, at the forefront is the quality of the judgments that each of these judges have produced. They're all at various seniority levels, but what is important is that at the Supreme Court of Appeal level, you've got to be able to produce a quality judgment either by yourself or within the context of your team, and that has come to the fore. Each of the judges have been questioned on the quality of the judgments they have put together, as well as the various other factors that would contribute to being an effective Supreme Court of Appeal judge. So certainly, from my view, this time around, a lot more credible, and the process, I think, can be trusted a bit better than before.
Thank you so much. That's Benedict Phiri. He's also an analyst, and he's been looking very closely at the interviews. We're not done just yet. There have been 3 candidates that have appeared before the JSC, but we're likely to go late into the evening, as this process is running behind time, even as the Deputy Chief Justice and the acting President of the Supreme Court of Appeal tries to hurry it along. But we'll be here to bring you the latest as it unfolds. For now, it's back to you.
Thanks for that update, Govan Whittles, out at those JSC hearings.